you just can't say enough about Lefty. I mean, he's become a very, very good friend of mine over the years.
Talking about Lefty I never heard anybody say anything bad necessarily, unless they just got a test back, which they might not like.
And Lefty, again, goes back to that sacrifice, goes back to that teamwork, goes back to being only 3-4 athletic trainers at Gettysburg, being dedicated to the community, to Gettysburg, to athletic training, to the student athlete. He would do everything, and he promoted the career, the profession of athletic training. And you know, when you went around to other schools or to conventions, you know, and you say, oh, your name tag says Gettysburg College on it. Oh, do you know Lefty? Of course I know Lefty. I worked with him all the time. I had that great experience. So that dedication, everybody knew him around. You know, he was a leader in the area, in the community, in Pennsylvania, and, you know, in the nation, actually, in athletic training.
And students come back like crazy. Steve Jurgel, who was a track athlete, a very good one at Gettysburg College, pole vaulter, and he always comes back. He was also president of the Christian Fellowship of Christian Athletes, speaking that, and he just, you know, thought Lefty walked on water, and you know, could have been right.
Here he is, more or less a farm boy. And what he did, rising through Frederick High and Gettysburg and Syracuse, graduate work, and then going on to being recognized for his work with the Olympics and so forth. And the type of individual he is, he's probably very, very proud of the fact that his own Hall of Fame elected him to that organization.
Hello, I'm Joe Yeck, President of the Adams County chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame.
And I'm Jeff Cook, Director of Sports Programming for Community Media of South Central Pennsylvania.
And I'm Ed Riggs, historian for the Adams County chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame.
We invite you to share our recognition of Gareth V. Lefty Biser, one of the most respected teachers, practitioners, and athletic trainers in all of sports medicine. A graduate of Gettysburg College, Lefty returned to help develop a nationally renowned program and has become an essential part of our community.
The Adams County Sports Hall of Fame is more than a collection of memorabilia. It is a testament to the greatness of our sports, its champions, and its methods. Above all, it is a tribute to those who, like Lefty Biser, define the essence of athletics and are committed to our community and lead lives of unwavering integrity.
Lefty has always been driven to reach his full potential and has always been committed to advancing sports medicine and athletic training. He's a champion and an advocate for his faith, his family, his profession, Gettysburg College, students, athletes, and our community.
In this series, we will celebrate Lefty's life and the virtues that have made him, our community, and those who have had the privilege of knowing him better. Lefty is a role model for all of us as we connect to our community and advocate for others to reach their full potential.
My name is Gareth V. Biser. And the name Gareth, my mother found it's one of King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. So she decided that would be a good name for me. Now, Gareth is an English name, basically. Very popular in England, not so popular in this country. But the people, everybody north or south of Mason-Dixon call me Gareth. Most people north of Mason-Dixon call me Lefty because I was a pitcher in high school and in college, but no one could remember my first name, so they just called me Lefty. So that's been my name, basically. And the Victor is for 5 generations of the Victors in the Biser family, starting back with my great-grandfather. And my father, myself, and my oldest son, Chris, for the Victor. So the Victor has been a part of our family tradition for a long time.
Lefty's family came from West Virginia and settled in southern Maryland. He grew up in Jefferson, located just west of Frederick.
Almost halfway between Frederick and Harper's Ferry. And so I spent a lot of time as a young boy on the Potomac River fishing and just enjoying the outdoors there. And the town of Jefferson is very small. It might have 300 people. And of course, in those days, I was born during the Depression, 1935. So there weren't any many activities for us to do as children. There sure wasn't a Little League, and there wasn't Boy Scouts. So you had to find ways to manufacture playtime and playthings to do. So in my neighborhood, there was about 4 or 5 boys, and we get together almost every day and played all kinds of games. I remember choosing sides, using a baseball bat and gripping the bat and deciding who to play. And we played dodgeball as best we could with the group that we had.
Growing up in Jefferson, there were 3 churches, a Methodist church, a Lutheran church, and a Reformed church, which became the United Church of Christ.
My father's family went to the Reformed church, and my mother's family were Lutheran. So for a long time, we were trying to decide where we were going to go. We did end up going to the Reformed church. And so that was basically our center of our life was the church. Went to church on Sunday morning and Sunday school, back on Sunday evening, Wednesday evening always for church. And then when I got the age to start confirmation class, that was always Thursday evening. And so one of my real memories of role model was the pastor that I had during my confirmation years. He had a home with, he and his wife, and the confirmation classes were always in his study, his home. That's where we met. And I learned an awful lot from him. He was a real good grounding for my life and my growing in the faith, really.
The small building where Lefty attended school in Jefferson had just 3 rooms with 2 classes per room.
So you learned a lot from the students above you. I learned a lot and when I started school, I started writing with my left hand, and the teacher came and took the pencil out and put it in my right hand. Well, that didn't work at all. So I went back to my left hand, and she was not very happy that I was using my left hand. And since then, my writing hasn't been very good, really. It's been, my father had wonderful writing as a left-hander, but I don't write well left-handed. So I left after the 6th grade. The 6th grade teacher was a real role model for me, too. Mrs. Kemp was a wonderful lady. She very solid, very strict in many ways, but very loving in the kind of work that she asked you to do, and the fellowship she offered in her classroom. So she was somebody else I really looked up to a lot. I think about her a lot. So I left there. We went to Fredericton to school. We bused to Frederick. And in Frederick County in those days, there was a couple small schools, but anybody who was within 10 miles or so of Frederick went to Frederick High School. So I went to Elm Street Middle School and then to Frederick High School.
It was at Frederick High School where Lefty participated in the band, chorus, and played baseball.
I started baseball, and I started playing baseball first at age 13 with just a pickup group. A bunch of us guys got together and just wanted to play. And we found someone who would drive us, and it was about 9 or 10 of us, and we played a team out of Hagerstown a little bit. And so it really spurred my interest in baseball at 13. And when I got to high school, Gene Hummel was the baseball coach. Now, some of you know Gene Hummel. He was a coach here. What people don't know about Gene Hummel, though, most people don't know, is how good of an athlete he was. Gene Hummel came out of World War II. He served on the Burma Road, helped to build the Burma Road, fought with the Gurkhas out of India against the Japanese, and came home and came back to Gettysburg to go to school.
While at Gettysburg College, Geno Hummel played baseball and football. He was also elected to play in the 1948 All-Star Game against the New York Giants.
That's the only college football team that ever beat the professional football team in football. He played on that ball club. And then also on that ball club is Ben Schwartzwalder, who was the football coach at Syracuse. And I had a chance to play or work with Ben when I went to Syracuse as an athletic trainer. So I played baseball for Gene Hummel in high school. I played baseball for Gene Hummel in American Legion Ball in Frederick. And we came up here in the early 1950s we would play anywhere between 28 and 30 baseball games in high school. That was a lot in those days. And so we came up here to play the freshmen at Gettysburg, and he introduced me to Hen Bream, and I got introduced to Ira Plank. He introduced us to a number of people.
Ira Plank was the brother of Eddie Plank, who played professional baseball for the Philadelphia Athletics. Ira was a coach at Gettysburg College until 1953, when Hen Bream took over as head coach.
And he introduced me to Rome Capozzi. That's how I met Rome, and took me to the training room and showed me around. And I knew nothing about athletic training, but that was a real interest for me. Became a really focused interest for me. I hadn't really thought about going to college. I really hadn't thought about it a whole lot till my junior year. And my mother said to me one day, "What are you going to do when you finish school?" I said, "Gee, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it a whole lot." And she said, "Well, you know, you've taken the classes now that you need that you could go to college if you want to go." And so I said, well, then maybe I should work towards that. So that's when I began to investigate different places to go to school. I didn't take any SATs. I didn't take any other testing. I just applied. I had applied to Western Maryland, to Shippensburg, to Frostburg, to Gettysburg. And my father said to me, he said, "You have to decide where you want to go," because he said, "I don't know where we can afford to send you." So in those days, you could go to University of Maryland, you could go to Shippensburg, you could most of the state schools for $50 a semester for tuition. But at Gettysburg in those days, tuition was $600. When Gene Hummel actually brought us to Gettysburg, and I got a chance to be on the campus and walk around the campus and see what was campus life was like, that was exciting to me. I was excited about coming, particularly excited about coming and playing something I really enjoyed playing, that was baseball. I said to him, "I want to go to Gettysburg." He said, "You need to work." So I did. I worked all summer on construction and saved enough money to pay my tuition.
Lefty started attending Gettysburg College in 1953. The following spring, he joined the school's baseball team.
And at the end of the spring, Hen Bream came to me and said, "I'd like to offer you a scholarship for baseball." And it was a $200 scholarship from Tawnytown Rubber Company. And so for 4 years, I had a $200 scholarship to play baseball. And I worked with Rome in the training room all those years. And it was a great experience for me and to be involved in all the activities on campus. So that was a really enjoyable time for me. It was exciting. And then getting in the training room, I mean, I had chances. I traveled with teams all over the place, to see places I'd never been before. And Gettysburg at that time had some really, really good sport teams and performed at a very, very high level. So that was all very exciting for me too. So when I graduated, Hen said to me, "Would you be interested in coming back to Gettysburg to work?" I said, "Well, let me think about that." So I didn't give him a direct answer, but I graduated June 6, or 57, and went to Syracuse right away and started my graduate work. I took a graduate degree in health, education, and physical and therapy, because that was a real opportunity to, at a different level, for me to be involved. Even though I didn't play, I was involved with the football team. I traveled with them some when I was at Syracuse. I was in charge of the intramural program there. I taught classes. So I had an opportunity to do a lot of different things that I never thought I'd do. I got to meet some of the great football players that Syracuse had. Jimmy Brown was still in Syracuse a lot. I met Jimmy and spent some time with him, got to know him pretty well. Ernie Davis was there. Got to meet Ben Schwartzwater. So that was a great experience for me. And I finished there in the fall of '58. So my father said to me, "Why don't you see what you can do about entering the National Guard?" So I did that. I entered the National Guard in Frederick, and I went on active duty on October 25th at 6 months at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And when I left Fort Knox and went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and I came back the 25th of April and spent 6 years in the reserves here in Gettysburg. And when I got back, I called Hen Bream. I said, "Are you still interested in my coming to work?" He said, "Oh yes," right away. So he says, "You'll hear from me or from someone." And I didn't know what to say. So to him, I said, okay. I didn't have any time for him or know what to do. So that was on the 25th. That was on like a Friday or Thursday or Friday. So on Monday morning about 9 o'clock, the phone rang. And this gentleman said, is this Biser? I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "This is General Paul, president of Gettysburg College. Biser, when can you come to work for me?" I said, "Well, sir, when do you want me there?" He said, "Tomorrow." So I actually started Gettysburg working here May 1st, 1959, which is really, really unusual to start the end of a school year. So, but I started and I taught summer school, and I guess you would say the rest is history from that point then. I taught summer school, I taught anatomy and physiology for almost my entire career.
In 1955, Bob Davies, fresh off a successful professional career with the Rochester Royals, including a 1951 NBA championship win over the New York Knicks, was hired as head basketball coach at Gettysburg College. At the time, Lefty was serving as the college's athletic trainer.
He was one of the top 5 elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame for the first 50 years of 1900. And I became his athletic trainer. I traveled with Bob a lot and got to know Bob real well. And he had said to me one day, he said, "What do you know about the Fellowship of Christian Athletes?" I said, "I really don't know anything." He said, "Well, come with me. We're going to go out to Gettysburg High School." Lee Lawhead, who was the pastor at the UCC church here, ran that fellowship. And so I went with him to that FCC group. Professor at the time I was at Gettysburg. And so many people don't realize this, but Gettysburg High School had the second oldest FCC huddle in the United States. FCC started in 1952, and they started their huddle there in 1954, 55. And so I had always had an interest in FCA, but I didn't have an opportunity to do much with it until I got out of the service and come back to Gettysburg. And the first summer I was with the Baltimore Colts, I said something to Jimmy Ward. I said, "Baltimore Colts is involved with the FCA." He said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Raymond Berry is the one in charge." So I sat down, met with Raymond Berry for a while, and asked him some questions, and got some information where we could get FCA credentials and all that. So in 1966, we started an FCA fellowship here. Colleges are called fellowships, high schools are called huddles. And we ran the FCA fellowship here until I basically left the training room in 1988, 89. I was their faculty supervisor for them. And we had some great years. In the 1980s would not be unusual Wednesday nights for us to have 150 students show up for our FCA fellowships, and some really good leaders. Out of that group, we had 4 or 5 missionaries that served all over the world. We've had 3 ministers in that group. In the 80s, that was a really strong group. And so that was a real foundation for me too, for my life as FCA. And I get calls from some of those people constantly and talk to them a lot. So they were really helpful for me.
Lefty's Christian background would come to be an important part of his character when tragedy struck.
My 2 sons were killed in an auto accident in 1985. And I had been at FCA camps and conferences all over the place and met a lot of coaches. And nearly just before the boys were buried, I had a call from Tom Landry out of Dallas. And Tom said to me, he said, "Lefty, do you have time to speak with me?" I said, "Sure, what do you want?" He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, not so good." I said, "Losing 2 sons and a future daughter-in-law was not good at all." So he said, "Get your Bible." So I did. And he said, "Now I want you to open it to Romans, the 5th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 to 5. And before he did that, he said, I want you to tell me, how is your character?" That was his question to me. How is your character? And so I said to him, "Well, I'm struggling with my character." Because the accident was just filled with all kinds of sinful things. The driver was a Mexican, had no license. The tractor trailer had no brakes. The cables on the trailer were all rusted. In California, we only allowed 18 cars on the trailer, and that had 19. So it was all just a matter of sinful things. So I was really angry about that. And Tom, I think, could sense that. So that's why his question was, how is your character? So those verses in Romans 1 through 5 have been my go-to for a long time, because suffering produces endurance, and I was suffering, and I suffered a lot with that. Endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not disappoint us, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit which has been given to us. And so that's what I hang on to a lot. And so when we finished that, Tom said, and he became then the chairman of the board of Fellowship Christian Athletes. And I talked to him off and on occasionally after that, not a whole lot, but because he was such a busy man. But he said to me, hang on to that. He says, keep working on your character. So that was really, really important for me at that time. And so I do. I try to do that as I get older. It's some days easier and some days not so easier. But you know, when my oldest son would be 65 this coming March, and my other son would have been 63. So you have to wonder what life would have been like with them or for them. So that's what I think about those people a lot, the coaches who I serve with in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes around the country. Great men, great strengths, helped me a lot in my own life.
Rather than step back, Lefty leaned in, dedicating himself even more fully to serving his students and community.
Caring about people, the well-being, always had time to listen, to hear you. Even when he was running the class, he was mentoring, you know, he's also an advisor, you know, for students.
And Gettysburg College is wonderful to me. I started every Monday in class with giving everyone a 3x5 card and told them to write down their goal for the day and a goal for the week, and then a goal they want to make sure they reach by the end of the month. And no one ever said anything to me about that. Many days I opened the class with some kind of a scripture reading or a reading of some kind of inspirational reading. No one ever questioned that the time I was here. So that was another really important, for me, way to try to help build a character and strengthen people and character in students and help them to see that there's a lot more to life than just going to school. It's important that you build who you are while you're in that process of learning. And so that was a real important part of my growing up process, I think, altogether.
That well-being, you know, it started in that classroom, my first experience with these goal settings, right? So I'm in class, one of the introductory class, and he hands out a little card, and he says, write down your goal for the day, your goal for the week, and your goal for the month. And if you had a goal for the semester, you can throw that on there. And I was like, goal for the day? I'm just trying to get up and get through this day, you know? But over time, it got you to think that process, you know, now, and it was on a card, right? We didn't have computers, we didn't have the cell phones. And then I want to say maybe once a month, or especially as it got this time of year, we'd all have to find a bike. We'd go out to Spangler Spring in Gettysburg, sit on those rocks. I run out there a lot. You know, I look at those rocks and think, wow, like 40 years, 35 years ago, you know, doing this, sitting on these rocks out here, writing our goals and just kind of taking in where we are. Super well-being. You know, again, at the time when you're young, you're not thinking of that. Sometimes you're like, oh, we got to get up a little bit earlier to get out there and do that. But then as you reflect and you sit back, you see how important that is. And still, you know, to this day, you set your goals. I set my goals, and, you know, I'm not writing on a little card, but those qualities that he taught me way back then still exist.
The whole process is what's important. I've many times felt to myself, well, here I've reached my goal, but I'm not as happy with at the end as I was in the process of working to get to the goal. So working in the process is what makes it so important, I think, to understand that it's a day in and a day out. It doesn't stop until you, and when you reach the goals, to look back and say, yes, I now see all those little steps that I took make it all worth to get to the end. And once you start setting goals, then you continue to do that. You can grow and grow in many different ways. And it makes a big difference in your life, I think.
The well-being of everybody that came across Lefty was, you know, top priority. You know, he would always take time. I mean, busiest guy I know. Probably one of his best qualities and his worst qualities is he never said no. So, you know, always doing everything from, you know, CPR, first aid, teaching, volunteering, doing all these things.
I don't think this community might not even realize how much he did.
Look at the Red Cross courses that he taught and volunteered to teach, and especially first aid. You know, that was people today. There's several people I know that would thank Lefty for having that class that he was teaching, but they were able to help people with situation, choking and stuff like it in a restaurant. And they said that, remember Lefty teaching them.
And I'm in the training room, and all of a sudden somebody's in there, as a guy from uptown who's working for the town, right, digging holes, and he's sitting on our training table. What you doing here, buddy? And he said, I'm waiting to see Lefty, you know. And Lefty had asked or volunteered to help him because he sprained, you know, a muscle or strained back or something like that. And, you know, he says, come on over here, I'll take a look at you. And he did that all the time.
And of course, this was during a time too when the high schools didn't have to have trainers. And a lot of the coaches would bring their athletes up to Rome and to Lefty. And that continued many years after Rome had retired. So shows you the value of Lefty and what he has done. And he's so cooperative.
The high school, same here. And not only Gettysburg High School, we get people coming from New Oxford, you know, Hanover, Chambersburg. They all knew, the coaches knew Lefty, right? And that was the point to do.
And of course, then there were other colleges that would check with Lefty.
That caring about people, listening to people, treating people, helping people, you know, and not only local college people, but the community of Gettysburg all came to him, and everybody was just as important as the next.
He was really revered, was by his acceptance, I mean, being a trainer for the Olympic athletes as well. I guess a couple of different times he was asked to join the staff.
You know, he's definitely had some personal challenges in his life. You know, his faith, you know, he taught me a lot that way, and how things may affect you in the ups and downs of life.
He was just good, and a great guy.
And I know Lefty's gotten a lot in return from hundreds, if not thousands, of students that have come through there, athletes and athletic training majors, health and physical education majors, you know, that maybe weren't athletes, but I can't even think. It's got to be thousands of athletes that have come through there that, you know, even to today, I mean, if we got on the phone and did emails and say, hey, something we need help with Lefty, we'd get thousands of people coming back and helping.
I worked in the training room up until actually it was about 1987 when I worked part-time. I didn't work full-time after that. But I guess the most exciting thing I could say was seeing athletes grow and flourish on their own, both in the classroom and on the field. So my tenure at Gettysburg was 42 years altogether. So it was a wonderful experience. I'd do it again. With a heartbeat, I'd do it again. It was really great.
We hope you've enjoyed Lefty's story. Like most of Adams County Hall of Famers, he's a legendary leader and a motivator for his profession and our community.
Lefty significantly impacted Gettysburg College, and like all Hall of Famers, he impacted our community by helping others find their potential. Lefty's versatile and dedicated nature positively influenced many students and athletes.
These leaders continue to help us reach our potential, making us and our community vibrant, thriving, and safe.
The Hall would appreciate your support and involvement as we recognize, nurture, and celebrate past, present, and future Hall of Famers in our sports community.
Please consider becoming a member of the Adams County Sports Hall of Fame. Yearly dues are $15. A lifetime membership is $150. The dues give you nominating privileges and voting privileges for the Adams County Hall and the Pennsylvania Hall. For more information, contact us at adamsportshall.org.